just like do it like a triple, okay? So when I saw this happening, I said to myself, all right, let me take a good hard look at my business. What is going to survive this and what is not? And I quickly realized that being in the live events business is not where I want to be. In fact, I don't want to be there going forward. I will only do it tangentially to build my brand, but I'm not going to rely on having to travel around the world and pull together large groups of people in rooms after this nightmare that just happened. There's going to be a paradigm shift in that whole live events world, right? So what did? I poured all of my energies into the online world and into the recruiting world, where I actually recruit salespeople for companies. And because of that, and some other things too, which I'm about to explain, my business soared. Like it took off like a rocket in the middle of what's arguably the greatest economic downturn since the Great Depression. And just how bad it gets, we really don't know. I built my business. So the question is how did I do that? And what can you learn from that? How do you do it yourself, right? Well, I started off by saying, seeing things as they are. That's step number one, right? To see things as they are, but not worse than they are. And then the next step is to actually see things better than they are. And develop a plan, a strategy to get there. See things as they are, but not worse than they are. Then see things better and develop a plan to get there. And that's your goal, your vision for the future. So everybody, you have to, literally, you have to make this commitment to yourself. Number one, throw out the old model. Throw out the old model. Now, not yet. Listen, if, there's a big if here, if it's creating massive headwinds for you in a post-COVID world. Do not try to bang your head against the wall here, because I'm telling you, you're going to find these headwinds really, really setting you back. I'm not saying you have to shut it down completely, but what you need to do is start thinking in a new way. Look at the service that you have. Look at the product that you offer. And ask yourself, what pain point am I solving? What problem am I getting rid of? What am I doing? What's the highest level? What do I really do? Why are people buying my stuff? What pain point? What problem? And then ask yourself this very simple question. In a post-corona world, what is the most logical way to deliver this value to lots and lots of people that's going to create massive tailwinds? That's the trick. You don't have to change your product or even your offer. It's not that. It's how am I going to deliver it to people in a way that the current panic or paranoia creates tailwinds. That's the trick. Let me go back a step here. One of the reasons why I have been booked for webinars, probably more than any person on the planet in the last 30 days, is because if there's one thing that I'm known for, it's the ability to bounce back from failure, like to come back, right? I've made some mistakes, and lo and behold, I've come back bigger, better, stronger than ever, right? And I think in this type of world right now, where so many people have taken significant setbacks, falls from grace, and let's face it, it's not your fault. No 𝐒𝐭𝐫𝐞𝐭. Okay? No, 𝐖𝐚𝐥𝐿, errores, okay? Es gobierno una día dice, ¿qué será? Done. Stop, papá, right? I mean, come on. This is not normal. No es normal, okay? So, no es tu culpa, right? Pero, okay, it might not be your fault, but it does create a reality. And the reality is you have to change. And in my life, I've had to change and reinvent myself and come up with new ways, okay, to go out there and really solve problems because I made big mistakes. You haven't made big mistakes. You are literally victims of a circumstance. You're victims of a circumstance. But what that doesn't change is how you're going to handle that. Do you want to continue living as a victim of circumstance? Or say, I'm going to flip that narrative and become a creator of circumstance. I'm going to make my own way. Either I'm going to find a way or make a way. I didn't say that's Hannibal, by the way. Famous quote, right? So the question people always ask me is, how did you do it? How are you able to come back from such a terrible spot where you lost all your money, you lost your freedom, you lost your reputation, you lost your children for a time, you lost your family, your wife, everything. You end up in jail. I went to jail for 22 months, right? Yet somehow, while you were in jail, you taught yourself to write. You started writing this book. The book becomes this ultimate global phenomenon bestseller. You have the top movie star in the world play you in a movie directed by the world's #1 director, the most famous director. Right? How did that happen? How did you do that? And then how did you take that and build that into a global brand that now all the corporations around the world buy your stuff after you were in jail 10 years ago, 12 years ago? How did you do that? Good question. But it's actually 16 years ago I was in jail. Wow, time is flying, thank God, right? So the question is, how did I do that? And how did I do that so fast? I'm going to give you the secret. There's something called sublimation. There's a power, a force. And it's not well known, it's little known. Almost no one's heard of this. So no one you speak to will know what you're talking about, but that's your edge. It's called the power of sublimation. Let me tell you what sublimation is. Sublimation is when something goes from point A to point Z, but skips over all the stuff in the middle. It like skips over, collapses time. So you can go from A to B to C to D, you get it, all the way to Z. That's the regular path. The so-called linear recta, the straight line, right? Or, when you're harnessing the power of sublimation, you don't go from A to B to C. You go from A and you somehow, seemingly by magic, as if by magic, you pop up to Z. And it's like, everyone's like, how did she do that? How did she go from near bankruptcy to being massively wealthy? How did she go from such a terrible spot back to the wall, seemingly no way out? How did she take that and build an empire? How did she launch her brand? How did she write her first book? How did she become famous in her market? How did she secure the futures of her children and her grandparents and everybody and help her? How? We see this happen. Not often, but we see it happen. We see how some people have this ability, it seems, to almost collapse time and to do things that would normally seem to take months or years, and it's often many years, and do them in a matter of weeks, days and weeks. How does that happen? The process is called sublimation. Another example, and I always like to use examples in the physical world, right? So, one of the things I'm a big believer in, and things will come as no surprise, very obvious, right? Is that we live in a world of duality. There's two sides to every coin. You have up, then you have down. Arriba, bajo, right? You have sí, you have no. You have afuera, you have adentro, right? Inside, outside. There's always two sides, even, by the way, to this digital world that's allowing us to talk ahora. You have uno and cero, 1 and a 0. There's always two sides to everything. The whole physical universe.